Welcome to Spooky Southcoast.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
AM 1420.
Matt Costa. There is no science advisor, Matt Moniz. It's just myself piloting the ship all by my lonesome tonight because we're on at a special start time, 7 to 9:20 tonight because the Red Sox are coming up. They're in Oakland. The pregame is set for 9:20, so it's just going to be nonstop spookiness from now until then. We talk about the paranormal each and every Saturday night. Normally we're on from 10 to midnight, but again, we're here at a special start time this week, and what a great night it is to have a special start time because now I can go home and go to bed. I was here early this morning for the morning show, 6 to 9, every Saturday. If you are up and awake, check it out. And if you are new to this show, we like to take things, we talk about the paranormal pretty seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And normally I have a couple of co-hosts in here with me, but tonight they are out doing other things. Matt Costa may come in depending on what time he gets out of work, if he can get here on time, because we have to have a meeting, him and I, about SpookySouthcoast.com, and we have a whole bunch of changes going on over at the website. We have some new contributing writers who will be adding blog articles throughout the course of the week to the SpookySouthcoast.com site. So we're happy to have them on board. We also want to welcome 2 new members of what we call the Spooky Crew, and that is our graphics gal, Christina Tufty. She's going to be designing some graphics for us each and every week to help promote the show. And also our new web mistress, Summer Ronso. So welcome aboard, ladies. You are the first official female members of the Spooky Crew. And we apologize for the smell. And if you are also new to the show, we've been doing this for 7.5 years. So why not go to SpookySouthcoast.com or go to iTunes and download years and years worth of podcasts. Some of the greatest hits of Spooky South Coast, some of the not-so-greatest hits. They're all up there, warts and all, for you to download and peruse. And we also have what we call Spooky TV, which normally is a lot more exciting than it is tonight. If you go to SpookySouthCoast.com, and now if you go to WBSM.com and go to the Spooky South Coast page there on that site, you can see what's going on in the studio. We call it Spooky TV. We normally have 4 cameras set up, and we go back and forth, shot to each of the guys. And we also have a chat room set up on SpookySouthCoast.com as well, where a number of our regular listeners always come in and join in the fun. And I'm sorry, guys, if I can't get to the chat room tonight. I'm actually doing kind of everything by myself. But I do see it over there. It is within reach of my chair here, so I'm going to try and make sure that I can get over there and get some questions that way. But of course, we also welcome your questions via the old-fashioned method by calling in 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. And tonight we are talking about probably one of the most requested topics of Spooky South Coast that we have yet to cover, and that is the concept of black-eyed kids. And joining us is David Weatherly. He wrote the book, literally, on black-eyed kids. He's a paranormal investigator and author, and for over 35 years he has explored the world of the strange, investigating cases around the country and abroad. He has written and lectured on a diverse range of topics, including cryptozoology, ufology, and hauntings. He also studied shamanic and magical traditions with elders from numerous cultures, including Tibet, Native America, Europe, and Africa. He has appeared on numerous radio programs, of course, this being his first time on Spooky South Coast, and is also a writer for Intrepid magazines. And you can check him out online, twocrowsparanormal.blogspot.com, which is linked up right on the front page of SpookySouthCoast.com. And we welcome to the program David Weatherly. Good evening, David. How are you?
Good evening, Tim. How you doing?
I'm doing well for doing everything by myself tonight, but that's all right. So the idea of black-eyed kids is something that we haven't covered here on the show in the past. We've heard stories from different paranormal investigators and people who have called in and shared their own thoughts about mysterious kid-type figures, but we haven't actually gotten any reports of literally the black-eyed kid phenomenon. And this is something that I thought was relatively new, but it turns out it's been going on for quite some time.
That's correct. There's sort of 2 waves of this phenomena, if you will. A lot of people look to the more modern sightings, which started in the late 90s with a report that was posted on the internet by a Texas journalist named Brian Bethel. Now, this is probably the most famous encounter with black-eyed children, hands down. Bethel was recently on a program, and his story was recreated, so even more people have been exposed to it. But essentially, he went to a parking lot late one night to write a check and pay a bill, and as he's sitting in his car at the strip mall writing the check out, these two kids approached his car. And, they sort of tapped on the window and said, "Hey, mister." And for some reason, Bethel was initially very uneasy. And, he's sort of looking around and trying to figure out what's going on as these kids begin to speak to him. And they're saying things like, "Hey, we want to see this movie and we left our money at home. We want you to give us a ride." And as this is unfolding, Bethel had the consciousness to look around, and he looked at the movie marquee and realized that the film they wanted to see was already well underway. So things just weren't quite adding up. And because he felt so cautious, he had only just rolled his window down slightly enough to hear these kids. He becomes more and more uneasy as it unfolds, and at some point, as he's trying to grasp exactly what's going on, why he's feeling so strange, he realizes these two kids have solid black eyes. Now, this is not, I have to clarify, this is not a black pupil. The entire eye, the entire sclera is solid black, much like the common depictions of the gray aliens, for instance. And, that sort of pushes Bethel over the edge. When he sees this, he drives away from these kids as quickly as he can. Now, he posted his story on an early chat board, and he got an incredible response. People started posting saying, "Oh my God, I've seen something like this." They were just very compelled and very intrigued by the story. And I've spoken with Brian before, and he said that he got so overwhelmed with the number of people that wanted to talk to him about it, he sort of withdrew from all of this. But in the interim, as the years unfolded, more people posted similar encounters on the internet, and it sort of steamrolled. Now, the result was that a lot of people started to believe this was simply an urban legend, created by the internet age, and other people thought they were just, outright hoaxes. But the encounters just kept coming. And Tim, I believe you've read my books. I had sort of a inside track how I got, interested in exploring this phenomena. But
right.
Through my work, I ended up discovering that these encounters actually go back much further in history. What we're seeing is sort of the modern wave of them that started in the late 90s, but there are accounts that go much further back in history.
Well, in the book, you mention a case that goes back to the 1950, I believe.
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
And in terms of our more modern society, you also have some of the more historical society stories from other societies throughout the world. But in terms of our, I guess our modern day era of the paranormal, there's an encounter from 1950 which I found to be fascinating.
That was an incredibly fascinating encounter. One of the things I set out to do when I explored the phenomena was to try to determine whether this was all urban legend. And, let me say, we can go into this more. I actually met a gentleman in the early 2000s who had an encounter with a pair of these children. And his account was pretty mind-boggling, and it sort of set me on a path to say, okay, maybe there's more to this. Let me explore it some and see what I can find. And over the years, I started finding accounts, and at one point I realized the trick to finding older encounters was that you had to take away the terminology black-eyed kid, black-eyed child, BEK, which is a common acronym, and start looking for the various aspects that identify these encounters under different cultural explanations. You had to look at the culture and the time period of the people experiencing these things and how they would identify it within their parameters. So the account from 1950, for instance, was incredibly fascinating. Involved a young man who lived in a rural community, was walking home one day along this dirt road, and he's sort of following the fence line that leads up to his house. And when he gets to the corner, there's this boy leaning against the fence. And this gentleman, his name was Harold, he says to the young boy, "Hey, how you doing?" He just starts talking to him. Now, Harold, is just a completely good-natured guy. He would talk to anybody, and he would just, talk a mile a minute. And he starts talking to this young boy, and at some point realizes he's not getting any response, that the kid is just kind of, standing there sort of staring at the ground, and Harold says, "Hey, are you all right?" And this boy looks up at him and says in this very cold, monotone voice, "I want to go up to your house. You walk me up to your house." And Harold, as this is unfolding, is looking at this boy and realizes that this young boy has solid black eyes. Harold simply is thinking, "Oh, this is creepy. I'm going to run away from this kid," and he doesn't verbalize that. In a seeming act of mind reading, however, this young boy says, "Now, don't you run away from me. You're going to walk me up to your house." And of course, the story is, that Harold broke his personal track record for running up to his house that day. As he's running up this dirt lane, however, away from this boy, he heard what he described as something similar to the screech of a bobcat coming from this child. Harold reaches his home. He bursts through the door. His parents are inside, and good gosh, Harold, what in the world are you doing? And he explains his encounter. Now, the parents' reaction is, again, bear in mind, very rural farming community, 1950. The father grabs a shotgun, proceeds down the driveway to see, who's in his neck of the woods, causing trouble, so to speak. And the mother says, "Oh, my Lord, Harold has met the devil. We have to take you down to the clergy to get you cleansed." So, in this account, they never once referred to this being as a black-eyed child or black-eyed kid. No. Their cultural perception was that this was some manifestation of a demonic entity, possibly the devil itself, because, there were all kinds of legends in rural communities of, the devil showing up at crossroads and places to tempt people and so forth. So within their understanding, that's what had happened, and that's how they dealt with it as a result.
Well, I do want to get into some more of these reports about black-eyed kids coming up in this hour. And then in the next hour, I really want to delve into what could be some of the causes of these sightings, because it's interesting how they take different forms depending on what lens you look at them through. If you look at them through a ufology lens, they fit in some of that. If you look at them through a demonic lens, they fit in with that. So we'll talk about that coming up in the next hour. And also, if you've ever had an encounter with a black-eyed kid, you want to share your story with David Weatherly, our guest tonight, give us a call, 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. We do have to take a break, but we'll be back with more here on Spooky South Coast on WBSM.
Always on air,
Always online.
always free. AM 1420 WBSM.
If you like painting and saving, ask Sherwin-Williams and save 40% on paints and stains during our 4-day super sale, July 19th through the 22nd. With 40% off our great paints and stains and 30% off painting supplies, you can give your whole home a color makeover. But hurry, these savings are so super, they won't be around for long. Find your nearest store at sherwinwilliams.com/sale. Retail sales only, some exclusions apply. See store for details.
At Advance Auto Parts, getting the right oil and saving some cold, hard cash is your advanced advantage. Right now, a 5+ horse jug of Castrol GTX conventional motor oil and a filter are just $19.99. Or, if your car is over 75,000 miles, upgrade to Castrol GTX high mileage oil for just $3 more to help extend engine life. The right oil to make your car hum, the right price to make you whistle a happy song. Only at Advance Auto Parts. See store for details.
Smack! Safe! Whoosh! Steerag! Hey, Super 8 sign here. Now that I've wowed you with some whiz-bang sound effects that tell you this radio commercial is baseball-themed, let's get to the meat and potatoes. When you book at Super8.com, you're guaranteed the best rate. Because if you find a better deal, we'll match it and give you an extra 10% off. So go to Super8.com for your next trip. Woohoo! Clapping! Yay! Super 8. Destination super. Visit Super8.com for details. All hotels are independently owned and operated.
Head into the Home Depot for big savings on simple updates, like this small project. Add a cool breeze to the bedroom with a Hampton Bay Campbell ceiling fan and your choice of 3 finishes at a special buy of just $88.88 with free remote and light bulbs. You can get a leg up on the summer heat and keep more cash in your pocket. One of many ways to make a big difference for less during the Small Projects Big Values event going on now. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. U.S. only. See store for details.
Hello.
Hey man, you up?
No.
Wake up, I need to talk to you. I think your house is haunted.
Hey, come on, it's 2:30 in the morning.
I can't sleep in here, man. I'm scared.
All right, welcome back into Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, broadcasting on WBSM and online on WBSM.com and on SpookySouthCoast.com as well. You can check out Spooky TV on both of those websites and see what's going on in the studio. But, of course, it's not much tonight because it's just me here piloting the show. Matt Costa and Matt Moniz are both out tonight. Matt Costa may make it before the end of the program, but we'll see. And we are talking tonight with David Weatherly about his book, The Black-Eyed Children, and this whole phenomena of black-eyed kids, which is something that has really gained steam over the last few years. And David, I think we should probably let people know that while it's not uncommon to have people that have different things wrong with their eyes, and you get into that in the book. I mean, there are a lot of physical deformities and physical anomalies with people's eyes, but when you see a black-eyed kid, you know it.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a whole chapter in the book that explores some of the possible logical explanations for this phenomena, and quite frankly, there are very few. You know, there are a couple of diseases that distort the eyes. There aren't any that cause the entire eye to go solid black. There's also a common myth that there are drugs that can cause an eye to turn solid black. That's not the case either. And anyone, you know, if someone was born with solid black eyes, they essentially would be blind, you know, according to the specialist that I talked to, because no light would be penetrating the eye. So, you know, there's all those aspects of it, and of course, you know, there's a potential for hoaxing, which I cover pretty thoroughly in the book, I think. But in terms of these encounters, it's important for people to understand that while the focus is on the eyes in these accounts, that's not everything that goes on as these encounters unfold. That's only one component. Obviously, it's the most physically, you know, startling one. But in the accounts that I have found that I consider to be valid encounters, there are a lot of other components. For instance, there's this reaction that takes place within the victims where they go from feeling very uneasy to being outright nervous to having their flight response kick in. And, you know, I've had people describe it to me as something that they've never encountered before, that their entire body just felt, you know, like it was being pressured or being affected somehow, that, you know, that they didn't really have any control of themselves, that they had to run away. And, you know, some of the effects, it's curious, they sound very similar to infrasound, for instance, that can affect the human body. And, you know, that's one of the most significant things about these encounters is that, you know, the people, they don't just see a child with solid black eyes. There are these other components that come in that are actually frightening. There's also the fact that in these encounters, these children, they sort of appear and disappear very suddenly. You know, I have accounts from, for instance, law enforcement officers who literally turn their head for a moment, and when they look back, these children are gone. Now, these are people who are, you know, trained to be aware and observant, and somehow these beings simply disappear in front of them.
And there's so much consistency to these reports, so that's what makes it especially intriguing to me is, normally when we have a phenomena that we examine within the world of the paranormal, there's a lot of room for people's interpretation of what they experience. But it seems that with these black-eyed children, it's pretty much cut and dry what's going to happen. They're going to show up, they're going to creep you out, they're going to basically paralyze you with fear, they're going to have the same type of appearance, and they almost seem to follow a script.
Very much so. And it's one of the things that's intriguing about this phenomena and quite puzzling, actually, because it's very unclear, for instance, what their agenda is or what the point of the encounter is. It seems as if the purpose is just to generate that high level of fear within people, and then they're done.
And when they do have these encounters, to have that paralyzation of not being able to move and almost not being able to respond, it's like they're in a trance.
Yeah, some people even point out that there are aspects of the encounters that lead them to believe these children are attempting to exert some type of hypnosis or mind control. It was very interesting. I heard an account from a woman who she had actually utilized hypnotherapy to quit smoking. And when she started using it, she had a very difficult time becoming relaxed and going into a hypnotic state. So it took her a little bit of time to work with her hypnotherapist to, become comfortable with that. And she told me that in the course of it, she developed a very particular, she really knew when her body was hitting that stage where it could relax and she was about to slip into trance. So she was successful using, the therapy to quit smoking. And sometime later, it was a few years later or something, I believe, she encountered these black-eyed children. And she said that when these children began to speak to her, because most of the encounters, people report that they speak in a very monotone manner. Cold and kind of flat, and they repeat the same phrases over and over again. These kids started to speak to this woman, and she said that she felt her body starting to go into that state that she entered when she was about to go into a hypnotic trance. And, of course, this was a big, red flag for her, so she got away from these kids as quickly as she could. But it was very interesting to hear that perspective from someone who had utilized therapy before.
Well, we have to take another break. That's the problem with being on in this primetime slot is there's a lot more commercials than we normally have. Normally we get like 1 or 2 an hour, and we're free to just talk about the subject matter. But, we've actually got to pay the bills tonight here, so we'll take a break. Again, the phone lines will be open throughout the course of the show, 508-996-0500. 1-877-996-1420. And if you're watching the show on Spooky TV at SpookySouthcoast.com, just look at the top of the page. You'll see the numbers right there. You can also email us, SpookyCrew@SpookySouthcoast.com, if you want to submit your question that way. And you can also tweet it to us at SpookySC. So we'll take a break. When we come back, more about black-eyed children with our guest, David Weatherly. We'll get into more about these reports, about how these black-eyed kids can really wreak havoc on you, and more about where they might come from as well. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more here on Spooky South Coast on WBSM.
From your favorite hosts, every day at WBSM.com.
Whether it's a serious fall, fire danger, or other type of home emergency, Life Alert is there for you. The company with its slogan, "Help, I've fallen and I can't get up," protects its members. Here are some of them.
When you have a heart attack like I did and there's no one there, Life Alert was there for me.
Having a secure feeling through Life Alert is ideal.
My independence is possible because of it.
Now, Life Alert can also protect you in a fire emergency with a system that automatically notifies our monitoring center.
Thanks to Life Alert, you can live alone without ever being alone.
With Life Alert protection, elderly people can avoid or delay going into a nursing facility. For a free brochure about Life Alert service, call now 1-877-522-2215. That's 1-877-522-2215. Call Life Alert now for your free brochure at 1-877-522-2215.
Everyone's racing to Dave & Buster's to play 5 of the newest games for free. But hurry, because a deal this awesome won't last long. Play 5 free games, including Dark Escape 4D. So scary it has a heart rate monitor. Plus big screen versions of mobile hits like Temple Run and more. Plus new food and drinks. Play 5 of the hottest new games this summer free. Get to Dave & Buster's right now. Play free with $10 power card purchase or reload. Restrictions apply. Please see store for details. Offer available for a limited time only.
O'Reilly. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like BrakeBest Select, and Wagner Thermoquiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Are you one of the nearly half of all Americans that suffers from some kind of pain due to chronic inflammation? If you're experiencing joint pain, muscle pain, back pain, or painful arthritis, then this important message is for you. Stop suffering and start living a life free from pain with the help of Anatoblock. Anatoblock is a breakthrough supplement that is scientifically proven to quickly and effectively reduce excessive inflammation and get rid of pain. The formula is so effective that we guarantee you will feel a significant difference in just a few days. Pick up your supply of Anatoblock today by visiting any GNC store nationwide or online at gnc.com. Anatoblock is one of GNC's top-selling products and was recently voted to be the best new product innovation by GNC. Even better, join GNC's new member price program and get an instant 20% off today. That's right, 20% off for becoming a GNC VIP. Living a life free from pain is finally here. Get an Anatoblock today at any GNC store nationwide or gnc.com.
It's a fact. You can make thousands of dollars flipping houses. Discover the secret house flipping formula from Dave and Pete, the stars of A&E's hit show Flipping Boston, for free.
Hi, it's Pete and Dave. We're giving you our flipping formula for free. It's what we use to find the right house, flip it fast, and get paid.
It's time to stop just talking about flipping houses and start doing it. Now is one of the best times in history. USA Today reported that you can make thousands of dollars in profit flipping houses.
In New York City, the average profit was over 118 grand. Omaha, it's over 71,000 bucks. Lake Havasu, Arizona, the profit per flip was $87,000.
And we're going to show you how we do it for free. Stop dreaming. The houses are there. The opportunity will never be better. And for a limited time, the flipping formula is free.
Call now, 800-229-6285 for your free flipping formula book and 2 DVD quick start guide. Just pay processing. That's 800-229-6285. 800-229-6285.
Your station for the South Coast. AM 1420 WBSM.
Welcome back to Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here. Our guest tonight is David Weatherly, and we are talking about the phenomenon known as the black-eyed children or the black-eyed kids. And we'll take your calls throughout the course of the night. 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. We do have a call on the line right now, so let's go to that. Good evening. You are on Spooky South Coast with David Weatherly. How you doing?
Cold, so I'm going to sound strange, maybe like the black-eyed children. But I have a question. Are they human?
Well, what do you think, David? I mean, this is kind of a loaded question, but
what do you mean by loaded? I mean,
well, we're going to get into some of the theories about what these children could be, but
well, I can listen. I don't know. They must look strange if you can't see a pupil.
Yeah, that's actually a very loaded question. As you say, Tim, it sort of gets into exploring a lot of the different theories that explain what these beings are. They appear, for the most part, to be human, except for, obviously, the solid black eyes. Most people describe them as having very pale or pasty skin. But outside of that, the rest of the form appears to be human.
And certainly the people who are encountering them at first glance, they feel that they're human. They're just humans that aren't quite right.
Well, I would think that, but I mean, do you meet them in New Bedford, or where do people see these children?
Oh, thankfully, I haven't heard of any in New Bedford yet. I don't know if David has, but I'm sure I'll see one before the end of the night, though.
We might have one knocking on your studio door.
Well, I'll keep listening. It's very interesting.
Well, thank you so much for the call.
Yeah, and I enjoy your Saturday morning. You're replacing the other gentleman.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Taylor moved to Monday through Friday during the week.
Yes. So I enjoy your
he needs
show
the weekend off.
on Saturday morning.
Well, thank you so much.
Maybe I can call you and talk about normal things.
Oh, well, I hope you don't have to call me and talk about a black-eyed kid encounter. So.
No, I hope not. I think I'll stay in for a few days. All right.
Thank you so much.
I'll keep listening.
Bye-bye.
Tim, to answer the rest of that question, these encounters are worldwide at this point. When I first started exploring the phenomena, it seemed to be U.S.-based. There were sort of hot spots around the country where there seemed to be a high concentration of the accounts. But as I delved into it more, I started receiving encounters from around the world. And, they're in places as diverse as Australia, the UK, South Africa, Canada. They're from virtually everywhere at this point. And, I had to emphasize, too, that there is such a dramatic increase in the number of these accounts that are coming out. It's sort of mind-boggling. I mean, I get accounts every day, via email and other sources from people telling me about their encounters. And I'm not the only investigator who tracks these things. There are other people who have looked at the phenomenon some, and it's interesting because I talk to them, and they hear different accounts than the ones I do. So it's very significant how dramatically these have increased.
Well, I think, too, that it helps that people are now opening up more about the phenomenon. They're talking about it more. So if that's the case, then more people will be willing to come forward with their own encounters. And also, I think, as with anything in the paranormal, the more we discuss it, the more it, I don't want to say it makes it easier to believe, but it kind of does. It makes it easier to accept that that is happening to you and that it is what it is, and you're not trying to rationalize it in your mind. So instead of trying to explain it away, you can actually come away from it feeling like you had an encounter with a black-eyed kid.
Well, sure. I mean, the paranormal in general has become culturally acceptable now. It's just sort of part of pop culture now. And it's funny. I mean, when I started in this field, I always tell people, I could walk into a party when I started in this field and tell them what I did, and everybody would stay away from me the rest of the night. And now if I go to a party and tell people what I do, they're lined up out the door to tell me about their encounters, whether it's with a ghost or a UFO or whatever. So, yeah, people have become comfortable with sharing these things, and with black-eyed children in particular, the more this is out there, the more accounts. I have a lot of people contact me and say, my God, I never knew what this was, but this happened to me, 10 years ago or 3 months ago, whatever, and they say, this is what happened, and it'll be, one of these encounters with one of these black-eyed beings.
And of course, there's the other possibility that they're happening because whatever's behind them is ramping up for something.
That's a very distinct possibility, too, and there are people in the field who believe that's exactly what's happening.
Oh, man, I hope not. I got to tell you, I read, as you know, being involved in the field, you read a lot of books all the time, and you tend to become desensitized to a lot of it, and it doesn't bother you. And you can read a book about a demonic encounter that somebody has and a terrifying haunting and still be able to close the book and lay your head on the pillow and go to bed. For some reason, the idea of the black-eyed kids it got right into me as I was reading the book, and I wouldn't read it after a certain time because I knew that if I did, I was going to go to sleep thinking about it, and every tap on the window I would think is one of these kids outside.
All right. I'll take that as some kind of endorsement for the book then.
Oh, definitely. Now, when we were collecting all these stories, and we were talking about the similarities between them all, it is unique in the sense that normally we can't follow these patterns throughout paranormal activity. We think that, like, for example, ghosts respond in a certain way. We think that demonic cases go through certain stages. It's all just kind of speculation and theory based on years of research. With the black-eyed kids, it's almost like you seem to have a basis to be able to follow and to explore. It's just a matter of finding one of these kids.
I'd say yes and no. One of the fascinating things about it is that even though there are common threads with the encounters, the behavior is almost always the same. There are some variables that we can address. There are things that come in on different percentages of the case. For instance, a foul odor sometimes is reported, and there are some variables. But at the same time, looking at the accounts overall, I did this extensively when I was researching the book. I looked for patterns, and it was a little bit frustrating initially to find that there were very few patterns in terms of when and where the encounters occurred, who they were in, who was encountering them. That was one of the first things that I looked for. When I started correlating all these accounts, I looked at the witnesses or victims, as I often call them, and looked for commonalities. And there just wasn't any. There was no common religion or spiritual belief. There was no common gender or age frame or anything else. Now, what did emerge over time was one of the few patterns I found amongst the victims was that there are a very high number of people who are in positions of authority who encounter these kids. So I have a lot of accounts from law enforcement officers, military personnel, government employees, and that's interesting. At the same time, it's one of those things that makes you kind of scratch your head and say, "Wow, this is kind of weird." And how does this play in? What exactly is the effect that's interacting with these kids that's causing this?
And that is what is intriguing about it, because when you have these type of reports as a researcher, it's probably better for you because sometimes, when you're dealing with the average citizen, you can really question their character, and you can question what it is they have to gain from giving you these reports. Whereas with people who are in position of authority, they have a lot to lose if their name gets out associated with some of these stories, because people still kind of look at paranormal reports with the stink eye. So if you're accepting these stories from these people, it probably makes it sit a little bit better with you to know that they're people who are of the utmost character, we would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're in this field too, so it's just like any other kind of case. I'm sure that you've had the scenario where you've been called somewhere to look at, supposed poltergeist activity or UFO sighting or something, and 10 minutes into the interview, the person's asking you, do you think I'll be interviewed on television for this?
Right, yeah.
Well, probably not.
You're in trouble when they say, well, I noticed that you had the guys from Ghost Hunters on your show. Does that mean that you know them?
Mm-hmm.
But it does happen. I mean, a lot of times people are just looking for attention, and sometimes they just want validation for what happened to them, and they don't want to necessarily hear any more than you just saying, okay, well, you're not the only person to experience that, and that's enough for them. But it seems like the stories that you collected in the book, these are people who were shaken to their very core.
Absolutely. Yeah, these people, after these encounters, essentially behave like trauma victims. They're marked. You can tell that they have experienced something very unnerving, something that has rocked them to the core, and they just want to understand what it is they experienced it. And most of them, that's what they tell me. They say, I just want to understand what this was, and I want to know what I can do to make sure it does not happen again. I hear that, almost 100% of the time.
Yeah, that's probably the scariest part about it, is once it does happen to you, it's always in your mind as being something else that can happen. And just as I experienced reading the book, it's probably tenfold for them every time they hear a knock at the door. They don't know who's going to be on the other side when they answer it. It's interesting, though, that there are no stories of people who actually let them come into their homes and let them into their vehicles.
There are just a few, and there's one that made it into the book.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pretty long story, and it was very traumatic for the family that was involved. I'm constantly getting people asking me about that. What happens when one lets them in? What's the other side of the story? There have been a number of stories that have been circulating on the internet recently that supposedly, that purport to be accounts of people who have let these beings in. I don't know what I think of those. If I can't sit down and interview the person personally and look at the facts, I don't comment on it too much. But the one account that's in the book, I'm sure you read, was very disturbing, and it was, it affected that family on a number of levels, because it was actually a child who invited the black-eyed child in. So it was sort of very innocent in how it unfolded, but it led to some pretty negative consequences for this family. Overall, I find that in the accounts, the closer the contact and the more extensive the contact with these black-eyed children is, the more negative things that people experience. For instance, people that have touched them have had very strange things happen. They've become ill. They've had, a series of bad luck, things like that. And other people, feel that these kids are some kind of an omen of misfortune or even death. There are people that have had close encounters with them, and suddenly afterwards they find out someone in their family has passed away.
Well, when I first got the book, I was reading it, and I would have it on the table next to the couch, and I tried to kind of hide. I have a 9-year-old son, and I tried to kind of hide it from him, and I put it in a way that he couldn't see the cover, because I figured if he did, he'd be intrigued, and then he'd get freaked out, and I'd have to explain things to him a little bit. And then it was when I read that story about the little boy that let one in, that's when I was like, okay, Adam, should a child ever knock at the door, and when you look and see if I didn't even worry about the black eyes. I just told him, if you see them wearing a hooded sweatshirt, come and get me. Don't let them in.
Right.
And that's enough. But it's as traumatic as it is. As traumatic as the experience is while it's happening, there seems to be significant, almost post-traumatic stress disorder that results from having an encounter with them. Even if you don't let them in, even if you just encounter them and interact with them, it's enough to leave you shell-shocked.
Absolutely. As I said, these people are essentially trauma victims in the aftermath of these encounters, and it's very common to hear disrupted sleep patterns. People will have nightmares of these black-eyed children. A lot of people, this is interesting too, a lot of people have these experiences where they will believe that these children have returned, and they'll be right at that edge between being asleep and being awake, laying in their bed, and they genuinely won't know whether what they believe just happened occurred in a dream or whether it was happening and it woke them up in the bed. So, people will, for instance, say, I know these kids were there, they were knocking on my bedroom window. And, they'll jump up out of bed and run from the room because they believe this has just happened. I think in these encounters, I think it's people that are just traumatized and, continuing to experience this in their nightmares, dreaming of the effect from these kids. But the other things you hear are, nervous conditions. Some people border almost on paranoia. I've talked to people who have had encounters with the children at their place of work, and they will quit that job because they find that it's just too nerve-wracking to go back to the same location. There was a woman who worked at a late-night convenience store. She worked a late shift at a gas station convenience store, and she encountered these kids at the store. After they closed, they were trying to get in, and she ended up quitting that job. She said she could just not work there, and they even shifted her to the day shift. But she said that every time she would go back to work, it replayed in her mind those kids being at the door trying to get in, and it was just too unnerving for her.
Thinking about this a little bit in terms of today's society and the way that we are as a people now, it makes me wonder if it has something to do with the fact that we are more insulated amongst ourselves these days, even though we're at a point in our existence where we have more communication and more ways to be able to communicate with people than ever before. The cell phone is right in our hand, and we can send video and pictures and live stream, and we're so connected now, but we don't really spend the time to interact with each other on a personal one-on-one basis. That I wonder if almost this is something, and we can talk about this in the second hour when we get into some of the stories of what might be behind these black-eyed kids, but I wonder if it's almost playing on our uncomfortableness, our uneasiness with having to deal with people one-on-one and in close proximity in the way that they try to insinuate themselves into our lives. They want to come in. We have to let them in. And maybe that's just the fear that they're preying on a little bit.
It could be, it's kind of funny, as you're saying. I mean, in a lot of ways, we're more social than we've ever been on this planet because, as you say, I mean, we've got Facebook, Twitter, constant things. We can talk to someone around the world. But at the same time, we've also become more insulated from the experience of life, I think, in a lot of ways. And that's sort of a strange combination as it continues to unfold, especially for the younger generations who are more and more focused around electronics and less about being out and enjoying social interaction. So there could be something to that, There's evidence that these beings could be some type of a cult or a thought form, that's being created possibly from our fears, or from the things that we're sort of shunning in our society. So a lot of different potentials.
And how bad would that be for us as a race, as a species, if the problem is that we just can't deal with each other anymore? So therefore we have this fear of having to deal with kids. Out of all the forms that this fear could take, to be a child. But then again, I think children creep people out a lot of times. You watch a scary movie, you're usually okay, but when they have that creepy kid that's yelling red rum, that's what really freaks people out.
And that's the thing, Tim. I always tell people that it's important to understand with these encounters. Because I hear some people scoff at this. Oh, so what? A kid with black eyes showed up at the front door. So what? There's a lot of other things that happen during these encounters, aside from the intense fear and the other things that people are battling with. You have to understand the psychological component. And that's that, as adults, we're hardwired to help children. If a kid comes up to you in the street and says, "Hey, mister, I need help," you're going to help him. But, imagine yourself in a situation where a child has shown up at your car or your doorstep or whatever and says, I need to use the bathroom, or I need a ride somewhere. This child is expressing that he wants help. But within, all your alarm bells are going off. Your body is kicking into flight mode. That's a weird psychological battle that happens to these people. I've literally heard these people say that they were so confused they couldn't process what was happening because here's a child that needs help, and their logical mind is saying, "Oh, I need to help this kid," and everything else is rejecting that and saying, "No, you got to get out of here."
Right.
So it's that psychological component that really confuses people and adds to the strangeness of the experience. And of course, as you're pointing out, anytime you introduce children into paranormal, people become very uneasy. Mm-hmm. Hollywood has used that to great success in the last 10 years with introducing all of these children as the sinister presence in these movies, like The Orphan and all these different things, where the dark entity in the movie has taken the form of a child. It's bothersome even to sit and watch as entertainment.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to take a final break, and we'll come right into the news on the other side. So David, you can take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we'll be joined more by our guest David Weatherly to talk about the idea of the black-eyed children. Check out his website. You can get to it by going to SpookySouthcoast.com and clicking right on the picture of the front cover of his book up there on the slider. We're gonna take our final break, and then we'll join you up in the next hour with more here on Spooky South Coast.
Don't look now, but Spooky South Coast is creeping up behind you right after this.
Head into the Home Depot for big savings on simple updates, like this small project. Add a cool breeze to the bedroom with a Hampton Bay Campbell ceiling fan and your choice of 3 finishes at a special buy of just $88.88 with 3 remote and light bulbs. You can get a leg up on the summer heat and keep more cash in your pocket. One of many ways to make a big difference for less during the Small Projects Big Values event going on now. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. U.S. only. See store for details.
Hi, Tom Bodette. It's never been easier to book a clean, comfortable room at Motel 6. You can book online at motel6.com, use our cool new app on your tablet or smartphone, or call 1-800-4-MOTEL-6 on your dumb phone. Sadly, you can't book by pigeon or Morse code, so if you want the lowest price of any national chain by telegraph, I guess you're just ... I'm Tom Bodette from Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Are you one of the nearly half of all Americans that suffers from some kind of pain due to chronic inflammation? If you're experiencing joint pain, muscle pain, back pain, or painful arthritis, then this important message is for you. Stop suffering and start living a life free from pain with the help of Anatoblock. Anatoblock is a breakthrough supplement that is scientifically proven to quickly and effectively reduce excessive inflammation and get rid of pain. The formula is so effective that we guarantee you will feel a significant difference in just a few days. Pick up your supply of Anatoblock today by visiting any GNC store nationwide or online at gnc.com. Anatoblock is one of GNC's top-selling products and was recently voted to be the best new product innovation by GNC. Even better, join GNC's new member price program and get an instant 20% off today. That's right, 20% off for becoming a GNC VIP. Living a life free from pain is finally here. Get an Anatoblock today at any GNC store nationwide or gnc.com.
The way you look
You wouldn't let your child set off fireworks outside, but when's the last time you thought about fire safety inside? As a parent, you want to provide the safest environment for your children. Kidder's new worry-free smoke and carbon monoxide alarms will help eliminate your home safety concerns. The sealed-in lithium battery offers protection for 10 years. Never hear a low battery chirp again. Plus, each is designed to help you choose the right alarm for the right location. Buy Kidder's worry-free alarms today at the Home Depot.
Head into the Home Depot for big savings on simple updates, like this small project. Add a cool breeze to the bedroom with a Hampton Bay Campbell ceiling fan and your choice of 3 finishes at a special buy of just $88.88 with free remote and light bulbs. You can get a leg up on the summer heat and keep more cash in your pocket. One of many ways to make a big difference for less during the Small Projects Big Values event going on now. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. US only, see store for details.
If you're considering putting hardwood, bamboo, or laminate floors in your home, there's only one thing you need: a free Lumber Liquidators catalog. Lumber Liquidators has unbeatable prices and the best selection of high-quality flooring anywhere. Call 800-893-7750 for your free catalog. It's filled with great tips, ideas, and deals on hardwood, bamboo, and laminate floors. We buy direct from the mills, so you get the best quality at incredibly low prices. The Hardwood Floor Hotline is open 24/7 at 800-893-7750 to request your free catalog and see for yourself how we can help you get that gorgeous new floor you've been dreaming of.
The station the South Coast turns to for local news, talk, weather, and sports. WBSM New Bedford, AM 1420, WBSM.
From ABC News, I'm Michael Barr. Jurors deciding George Zimmerman's fate have been working at it through the evening, and now a question handed to the judge could make the defense nervous. ABC's Aaron Katersky in Sanford, Florida, joins us live.
Jurors are finishing dinner, Michael. Now we wait to see whether they have a more specific question about manslaughter. 2 hours ago, the 6 women asked the judge to clarify her instructions about the lesser of 2 offenses Zimmerman faces. The judge told them she couldn't discuss it generally, but might answer a specific question. Manslaughter requires the jury to believe Zimmerman killed without lawful justification, a far lower standard than what's required for second-degree murder. Michael.
ABC's Aaron Katersky. ABC's chief legal analyst Dan Abrams.
By these jurors asking for that definition of manslaughter again, it means that at the very least they're taking that particular charge seriously.
A 6-year-old boy remains in critical condition after he was trapped for more than 3 hours under an Indiana sand dune. ABC's Rob Nelson reports the boy was playing at the dune when it collapsed on him.
Officials tell ABC News the boy, who's from Illinois, may have been saved by an air pocket deep inside that sinkhole created by an old tree. The youngster is still being treated for sand that he may have ingested into his lungs, but still lucky to be alive.
We are on royal birth watch. The Duchess of Cambridge could give birth any day now. ABC's Bianca Goladriga is in London.
They're calling it baby fever. Proud Brits counting down the days until a new monarch is born. At St. Mary's Hospital, where the Duchess of Cambridge is expected to deliver, more photographers staked out positions today to capture the first images of the future king or queen of England.
California's Cedars-Sinai Medical Center has fired 5 workers and a student research assistant for looking at patients' private medical records. Just days ago, reality TV star Kim Kardashian gave birth there. You're listening to ABC News.
At Advance Auto Parts, getting the right oil and saving some cold, hard cash is your advance advantage. Right now, a 5+ quarts jug of Castrol TGX conventional motor oil and the filter are just $19.99. Or, if your car's over 75,000 miles, upgrade to Castrol TGX high mileage oil for just $3 more to help extend engine life. The right oil to make your car hum, the right price to make you whistle a happy song. Only at Advance Auto Parts. See store for details.
Hi, Tom Bodett, sharpening my memory with word association. I read a word, then say the first thing that pops into my noggin. Like dark, that's easy. Light, dog, fuzzy. Handsome, thanks. And Motel 6, value. That's because we always save you money on a clean, comfortable room. And the lowest price of any national chain is more than one word. I'm a stickler. Book online at motel6.com. I'm Tom Bodett, and we'll leave the light on for you.
UN peacekeepers have been attacked in Sudan's Darfur region. The UN says 7 people were killed in the ambush and 17 others were wounded. After a nasty custody battle, a Massachusetts mother and her 6-year-old girl are back in the U.S. ABC's Aditi Roy reports Shauna Haddon was stuck in Brazil for almost 2 months.
Their ordeal began at the end of May, when the pair arrived in Brazil with tickets paid for by Ava's father, who lives there. Within days, Haddon said her ex-husband took her to court, and Brazilian authorities confiscated their passports. Haddon, who has full custody of Ava, launched a Facebook campaign. After a combination of pressure from social media, the family's local congressman, and the U.S. State Department, a Brazilian judge gave the pair their passports back. Mom and little Ava returning last night to open arms. Aditi Roy, ABC News, New York.
Welcome back, Twinkies. The popular snack cakes are back after Hostess went bankrupt last year. Monday is supposed to be the nationwide return of the Twinkie, but it has already made an early debut at Walmart stores. Walmart spokesperson Veronica Marshall.
Twinkies have slimmed down a little bit. They're slightly smaller than the original Twinkie that was out just 18 months ago. But other than that, the taste is the same, they look the same, and customers are really responding favorably to them.
It was once the filthiest river in America. Today, dozens of people jumped into Boston's Charles River, now declared clean enough for swimming since the 1950s. This is ABC News.
The joint supplements of today are sadly incomplete because they don't give you the joint relief you need. Until now. Introducing the complimentary 2-week sample of Instaflex, our most powerful joint formula ever. It's the #1 selling joint supplement at GNC. Claim your sample today. 1-800-451-6580. Great for your knees, hands, even your hips. Instaflex is available at GNC, but you can only get your complimentary 2-week sample by calling 1-800-451-6580. 1-800-451-6580.
Michael Barr, ABC News.
Raising kids can be tough these days. As a parent, you've got your hands full making sure your kids have what they need to stay healthy and get the care they need when they're sick. Well, now there's help. Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program offer free or low-cost health insurance for kids and teens, all the way up to age 19. They can get regular checkups, immunizations, doctor and dentist visits, hospital care, mental health services, prescriptions, and more. Children in a family of 4 earning up to $47,100 a year or more may qualify. It's a helping hand for parents with their hands full. For more information about free or low-cost children's health insurance in your state, go to insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. That's 1-877-543-7669. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome to spooky Southcoast.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
AM 1420, WBSM presents Spooky South Coast with your hosts, Kim Weisberg and Matt Costa.
Welcome back in hour number 2 of Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here. No silent assassin, Matt Costa. No science advisor, Matt Moniz. They are both out for different reasons. Matt Costa is working, making the dough, literally and figuratively. And
I'm getting old.
And Matt Moniz is getting old. So they'll probably be back with us next week when we return to our regular 10 p.m. time slot. And that's where you'll normally find us, 10 p.m. to midnight, each and every Saturday night, talking about the paranormal. And tonight we're having a great discussion with our guest, David Weatherly, about his book, The Black-Eyed Children, which you can pick up pretty much anywhere books are sold, Amazon.com, and of course you can get it direct from his website, which is linked up on the front page of SpookySouthcoast.com. And if you are on the website there, or if you're on WBSM.com on the Spooky South Coast page, you can watch what's going on in the studio. And I apologize that I'm not more entertaining visually, but I'm trying to bring up some pictures of you for David while we discuss things with him, and also of the Black-Eyed Children, some artistic conceptions of them, so that you can see for yourself and have an idea about what we're talking about with these reports. Before we jump right back into the discussion, I do want to let everybody know about a few things. As I mentioned earlier in the show, we're having some changes to SpookySouthCoast.com. We're going to be adding some regular contributor blogs to the site, and already we've got some great articles up there. Barb Wright is going to be writing for us. She has her first post up there, and some of our good friends are going to be contributing as well, and we'll announce them as they begin posting on the site. But stay tuned to SpookySouthCoast.com every day, because there'll always be something for you to check out on the website. And we want to thank Summer Ronso, our new web mistress, for helping us make that happen, because we were having a lot of trouble with the website, and now she's helping us figure it all out. And also thanks to our new friend too, Christina Tufty, who's going to be creating some graphic designs for us as well to help us promote the show each and every week. So we'll be putting out some banners out on social media, on Twitter and Facebook, that you can help us out by sharing on your accounts as well and getting the word out. And we want to let everybody know too that we have an upcoming Legend Trips event, the USS Salem, on August 31st. If you've never been to the USS Salem, it's a gigantic heavy cruiser that is parked in Quincy Harbor permanently. It's said to be very haunted. And we're talking about not just EVPs, not just strange sensations, not just all these things that happen to us on so many of these Legend Trips events, but we're talking full-bodied apparitions have been captured there. So we're hoping that we can capture those ourselves on August 31st when we go for our Legend Trips event. It's called Dead in the Water, and tickets are $99. You can get them from legendtrips.com. And really get on board, because this is going to be a unique opportunity to get in there and kind of have the run of the ship for the night. And I was talking with Jeff Belanger, who is our partner in Legend Trips, and is a joint venture between Spooky South Coast and GhostVillage.com. And we were discussing earlier this afternoon our slate of events for the fall, for the Halloween season. And it looks like we're going to have a full slate for you. Pretty much, I think, if I remember right, we have, in addition to the USS Salem and Lizzie Borden, which of course Lizzie Borden is sold out, those are both in August, we have 3 events on the horizon, maybe even more, for September, October, and November. So we're going to make sure that we stay busy. We're going to help keep you busy as we head into what we consider to be our holiday season. And let's get back into the discussion with David Weatherly. And David, I know that if there was a place where, we could say to people, all right, here's where you can encounter Black-Eyed Children, we'd probably have a lot of trouble moving those tickets.
Yeah. I don't know. I get a lot of people who contact me and say they want to, encounter one of these beings.
Really? I mean, for what purpose? For research purposes, or just for their own sick, twisted fantasy?
Well, I think it's a lot of it is just thrill-seeking. It's people who maybe think that there's nothing really serious about these encounters. A lot of it just seems to be uninformed people.
Yeah, I think that if you read the book, you'll change your mind pretty quickly about wanting to do that.
Most people who are familiar with the encounters and see what the phenomenon is about, they're not rushing out to try to find these things. And I find it a little bit suspicious that Moniz and Costa just happen to not be on the show tonight.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. And pretty much any time of the year you look at Costa, you can find him wearing a hooded sweatshirt. And I wouldn't be surprised if he turns out to have black eyes.
So, all that aside, I mean, it's funny. I've been pursuing this stuff, like you said in the bio, over 35 years now. And, I really don't have any desire to encounter these things. Anything else, I'm the guy that if everybody's running away from, a negative energy in the room, going to be running towards it. But these things, consistently I hear all of these accounts, and there's just so much negativity that happens to the witnesses in the aftermath that, you really shouldn't want to go out and find one of these things.
Well, part of the issue, though, is there's so many questions about what they could be. And we think that when we go out and investigate for ghosts, for example, we have a pretty firm grasp on what's going to happen. It would be something earth-shattering to have, a ghost encounter turn extremely violent. As much as the horror movies, say that they're going to happen all the time, they don't really happen that often to us as investigators. But with the black-eyed kids, you really don't know what they are, so you don't know what could happen when you encounter one of them. What if it turns out that they are just another form of the devil, and you just came face to face with Old Scratch?
That's a possibility. One of the things I found so intriguing about this phenomenon when I started exploring it was that it crosses the line into so many different types of paranormal phenomena. As you saw in the book, there are arguments that could be made to say these things are alien hybrids, to say that they're some type of demonic entity, and a whole range of other things. And that's really what I tried to do with the book was give people a clear concept using actual cases and say, it could be this because, look at the correlations with these cases. And I didn't push any kind of agenda. I wanted people to decide for themselves and hopefully, pursue it from their own background and their own interests if that's what they were interested in doing and, contributing to figuring out what this phenomenon is.
All right, you don't want to have an agenda, but you must have your own way that you're leaning. There must be some direction that you're leaning toward.
Personally, yes, absolutely. I think that they are some type of interdimensional entity, and that's based on a lot of different factors. As you pointed out, my background is very shamanic. I find that tribal cultures around the world have legends about different beings that lived on this planet, and at some point they left. They went through a portal or a doorway or, a shimmering hole in the sky. There's all different versions of it, but they're all saying the same thing, and that's that there were other entities that lived here, and at some point they left. They went through some type of dimensional doorway, and they're gone. Now, to some people that sounds like fantasy or science fiction, but bear in mind that quantum science is now pointing to the reality of other dimensions of existence. A few years ago, there was a report printed that said, quantum science has now determined there are at least 12 other dimensions. We don't know how to get to them or exactly where they are, but we know they're there. Now, just because we can't get there doesn't mean that something can't get here. And if you look again at tribal lore, it says that these beings knew how to access these portals and that they can still come and go if they choose to. So I think that these things are a result of these entities coming through some type of portal, invading our space, so to speak, and, testing the waters or feeding off of the energy that they encounter here. And that's also how they're leaving. They're going through these portals, and that explains the sudden disappearances.
Well, there is a lot of similarities between the reports of these black-eyed kids, as you document in the book, and with the strange creatures, humanoid creatures that John Keel encountered, for example, the writer of the Mothman prophecies. And they sound like a lot of these reports that are similar to what we hear from the Men in Black before Men in Black became Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith, government agents in black suits. But when we had the original Keel era reports, the original, even going back to Bender and his reports of the Men in Black, these strange figures that don't quite seem right. There's so many different things about them that just don't seem like a normal person.
Yeah, it's great you brought up Keel. He was a huge influence on me. In fact, my next book has a dedication to him in front of it. And, I met John on a number of occasions before he passed away. he looked at things very holistically when it came to the paranormal. There's a handful of people that do that. Jacques Vallée does the same thing. A good friend of mine, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, approaches it the same way. You have to look at the overall theme of what's happening in any given area and start, thinking outside of the box, so to speak. And when you start looking at a lot of these encounters with various beings, whether it's a humanoid or some other form, there's a lot of commonalities. And, I think that, some people believe that there is a basic intelligence or energy entities behind it. For instance, Rosemary, really believes that these are a manifestation of the jinn, for instance. Other people point in different directions. And either way, I think we're looking at some type of intelligence that is directing this activity. And when it comes through into our level of existence, I think it's testing out and trying different forms. The wave of Men in Black encounters, fascinating stuff. And again, something else that there are correlations with the Black-Eyed Child encounters, because you can say, okay, well, there's a very monotone manner of speaking with these kids. That's similar to the Men in Black. There are things that seem to confuse the children. The Men in Black, there are classic stories, for instance, about them, not knowing how to use a pen or being confused by a fork. Very simple everyday objects that we take for granted. Well, we find some of the same things surfacing with these Black-Eyed Kid encounters. For instance, there was one that came in after the book was published. I believe I put it on my blog. And it was from a woman. And let me preface by saying, all of these accounts, these kids always knock. They never use the doorbell. It's always this long, consistent knock without a break. And this knock.
If you're considering putting hard...
Sorry about that. My computer fired off. The Black-Eyed Kids are taking over my computer.
Audio interference. Imagine that. So this long, persistent knock just continues until someone comes to the door. And there was a case that came in from this woman who, she was at home by herself. She was trying to finish some kind of project, something. Someone started knocking at the door. And, she was just trying to finish whatever was in her hands. And this knock would not stop. And she got very aggravated about it. And, she threw the stuff down and she rushes to the door and she flings the door open. And these kids are standing there, but before they can even say anything, she just, she kind of rails on them and says, "Why didn't you use the, bleep doorbell?" And she points at the doorbell. And she said after she made that statement, she turned and looked at these kids, and they were looking at the doorbell and then looking at her and then looking at the doorbell. And she said that she got this distinct impression that they had no idea what she meant, what she was talking about. They had no idea what that little lighted button was for. And these are the types of things that we find, that are very similar, again, to the Men in Black encounters. The pale or pasty skin, the almost robotic repetition of certain phrases that comes up in a lot of the encounters, as if they've been programmed or as if they've memorized a certain number of phrases, and that's what they just default back to.
Well, what I thought was interesting in the link to the Men in Black cases, especially the way that Keel reported them, is the way that they seem to speak. And not only in having trouble mastering the language and having an awkward phrasing of things, but in the way that they don't ask, they don't request, they tell, they say things in a commanding, declaratory way. So it's not, will you let us in? It's, come on, you're going to let us in. And that seems a lot very similar to the way that Keel reported the way that his Men in Black would kind of work their way in. Is they didn't say, "Is it okay if we come in? Will you invite us in?" It's more, "Come on, just do it." And it's that coaxing, that soothsaying way of trying to work their way in.
Right, and it's it comes off more as a directive, that they're trying to impress upon the person. Just let us in. This won't take long. We're just kids. Don't worry about it. Let us in. And it's a request, but it's not a phrase And there are no accounts that I've ever come across wherein these children force their way in. They have to have that invitation from what it appears. And oddly enough, of course, this is something that harkens back to classic vampire lore, that they're, or demonic lore,
Right.
that an invitation has to be issued in order for that entity or that being to cross the threshold.
And maybe we invite them in because we have to. Maybe that's why they're there. Maybe they're there because they need to be part of your life for some reason. Maybe these people are encountering them because they're at a moment of crisis in their life and they don't even realize it. Maybe they're being tested. Maybe their spirituality is being tested. Who knows? But there definitely seems to be a lot of similarities between black-eyed kids and so many of the other boogeymen that we've had throughout the course of human history. And I want to get into a lot more of that with you coming up in just a few minutes. Folks, we are joined by David Weatherly talking about the phenomena of black-eyed kids. 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. Those are the numbers if you want to call in and ask any questions of David or maybe even share a black-eyed kid encounter yourself. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with more here on WBSM's Spooky South Coast.
Don't look now, but Spooky South Coast is creeping up behind you right after this.
If you're considering putting hardwood, bamboo, or laminate floors in your home, there's only one Liquidators catalog. Lumber Liquidators has unbeatable prices of high-quality flooring anywhere. Call 800-893-7750. Wood, bamboo, and laminate floors. We buy direct from the mill, so you get the best quality at incredibly low prices. The Hardwood Floor Hotline is open 24/7 at 800-893-7750 to request your free catalog and see for yourself how we can help you get that gorgeous new floor you've been dreaming of. Hardwood floors add beauty and value to your home, so call 800-893-7750 today, and we'll rush you your free catalog. Get the hardwood floor you've always wanted for prices you never thought possible. But you must call now. Call 800-893-7750. That's 800-893-7750. Again, 800-893-7750.
Are you one of the nearly half of all Americans that suffers from some kind of pain due to chronic inflammation? If you're experiencing joint pain, muscle pain, back pain, or painful arthritis, then this important message is for you. Stop suffering and start living a life free from pain with the help of Anatoblock. Anatoblock is a breakthrough supplement that is scientifically proven to quickly and effectively reduce excessive inflammation and get rid of pain. The formula is so effective that we guarantee you will feel a significant difference in just a few days. Pick up your supply of Anatoblock today by visiting any GNC store nationwide or online at gnc.com. Anatoblock is one of GNC's top-selling products and was recently voted to be the best new product innovation by GNC. Even better, join GNC's new member price program and get an instant 20% off today. That's right, 20% off for becoming a GNC VIP. Living a life free from pain is finally here. Get an Anatoblock today at any GNC store nationwide or gnc.com.
Your station for the South Coast, AM 1420 WBSM.
Welcome back into Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here. We are talking about black-eyed children with our guest David Weatherly. He literally wrote the book on black-eyed children. That's the name of the book, The Black-Eyed Children, with a foreword by Nick Redfern, who we had on Spooky South Coast just a few weeks ago. And, just let us in. Let us in. It'll only take a few minutes. That was kind of my strategy when I was dating in high school. Just come up with me once, and that's all you need. And unfortunately, I didn't even get that shot most of the time. Maybe it was that black-eyed kid-like approach. Maybe I needed to go full creepy with the hood and the black eyes. So we are talking with David about black-eyed children, and we're trying to get into the heart of what these beings could be, where they could be coming from. And we actually have a call on the line here, so why don't we take that first before we get more into it. Good evening. You're on Spooky Southcoast with our guest, David Weatherly. How are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Oh, we are spooktacular, as we say here.
Yeah, okay. I'm kind of recently listening to your radio show about black-eyed children.
Mm-hmm.
And does it have to just be children? Teenagers? The only reason I'm asking you is because I would say about 5 years ago, I actually encountered something like this, and I would say the person was like in his 30s.
Well, David, you write about in the book that it doesn't necessarily have to be kids.
Okay, it doesn't have to be kids. Because I believe I met one of these people.
Can you describe to us the encounter that you had?
Yes, I was actually walking it was about 9 o'clock at night, and I was walking my friend to her car, and there was a person walking with a dog, and I'm an animal lover. So if you're walking an animal, I think you're a good person anyway, you know what I mean? So I remember asking this person, hey, is your dog friendly? Can I pet him? And he didn't say nothing, so I figured he didn't hear me. And I asked him again, is your dog friendly? Can I pet him? And this person was, at the time, looking down at the street, at the sidewalk, and he raised his head up slowly, and he looked at me, and he said, no. And when I looked at him, his eyes were totally, totally black. And I was so scared. I grabbed my friend. I just kept walking. And as we, crossed like another street to get to her car, I said, let's hurry up and go. Let's go quick. I got to get in your car. I'm not walking back. I got to get in your car. And she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, this guy's eyes were totally black. She thought I was crazy. And then I sat in her car and watched this man walk with his dog. I made sure he was out of sight. And I said, okay, now drop me back off at the house, which was like 5 houses down. I'm not walking. And I went back to the house to where I was, and I told everybody in the house what I encountered. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I've seen this guy. His eyes were totally black. And I was scared. I had never been scared like this in my life before. I was scared. I could feel it within my being. I was scared.
And can I just ask where this happened?
In New Bedford, right on Sycamore Street.
Sycamore. Oh, okay. So we do have a New Bedford encounter for the woman who called earlier. I'm sorry to tell you that, but and David, this probably sounds like some of the experiences that you've chronicled in the book.
Yeah, that's great. Let me say to the caller, I would love to hear more about that account. So please feel free to contact me. You can contact me through my blog. There's a Facebook badge on there. If you're on Facebook, feel free to friend me, and I'd love to hear some more details about that, because these are the kind of things that have started to emerge more as people have begun to recognize this phenomenon more. When I wrote the book, I focused on the accounts that involved the kids for a number of reasons. One is that at the time there was a fairly small number of encounters with black-eyed adults. And out of those, some of them were clearly, hoaxes or other things going on. So there was a fairly small number of accounts that involved adults with solid black eyes behaving in a similar manner as these kids. However, since then, a lot more of these types of accounts have come forward, and more and more people are having run-ins with these beings that are adult in form and have the solid black eyes. Now, your account is particularly fascinating because
I don't mean to interrupt you, but why are you not as clear as the first person I was talking to? I'm really trying to hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, David's on the phone as well, so it's probably having a little bit of trouble going from phone to phone.
I'm like hearing bits and pieces. He sounds muffled.
I'm sorry. I'll turn him up a little bit.
Hopefully you can go back and listen to it in the archives.
Right, we do put podcasts up, and we have YouTube videos up of all of our shows, so you might be able to hear David's answer better there. Well, I thank you very much for calling in and sharing.
You're welcome.
All right, have a great night.
I'll tell you what, it scared me.
Well, I'm a little scared now hearing you tell that story because we're not that far from Sycamore Street here in Fairhaven, so.
I actually thought it was demonic.
Well, that's definitely one of the ideas behind these that we're going to explore throughout this hour. So stay tuned.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that is one of the really creepy stories, and to know that it happened just a few miles from where we are. I do hope that Matt Costa shows up before the end of the night because I don't want to walk out into the parking lot by myself. and it takes a lot to scare me. So, but she had mentioned that she thought that it was demonic. That is another angle to these black-eyed kids. A lot of people feel that they are some sort of demonic entity. In fact, that 1950 story that we related earlier, that family felt that they were dealing with something that was demonic.
Absolutely. And, that's probably, as I stated earlier, hands down, the two most popular theories are that they are either demonic entities or that they're some type of alien hybrid. And some people believe it's both at the same time, that there's some type of hybrid alien demonic entity. But,
that's a lot for one entity to have to handle.
Yeah. All of that aside, there's a lot of things that are very similar to traditional demonology. A demonologist will tell you that a demonic entity cannot take complete human form, that something has to be, misshapen or different. And these people believe that these kids are demonic entities, and the one thing they didn't quite get that was fully human was the appearance of the eyes. There's the thing that we were discussing earlier, in that they seem to need an invitation, that they can't just barge in, and that's classical demonology too. Whether it's a full out and out possession or whether it's an infestation in the house. The belief is that somehow some type of invitation was issued, some type of opening was created for that entity to come in, and these black-eyed beings, they're showing up and they are insisting that somehow you invite them in, and they'll literally say that. So just ask us in, and we have to wonder why. You would think in so many cases, if there wasn't some type of energetic restriction or something in place, you would think that at some point one of these kids would have, crossed the line and stepped in the house themselves or shoved their way in or something, but it doesn't happen.
Right, especially when you're dealing with teenagers. They're not exactly the most polite group of people normally. So you would expect that one of them would kind of force their way in. Well, we're going to take a break. If you would like to call in and either share an experience or ask a question of our guest, David Weatherly, about the topic of black-eyed children or anything paranormal in general, give us a call, 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. And if you want to check out his website, you can do so by going to SpookySouthcoast.com and clicking right on the link on the front page. When you see the cover of his book pop up, that's when you'll know that's where you want to click, and it'll take you right to his website where you can purchase the book and find out more about David and about the black-eyed children. We'll be back in just a few minutes here on WBSM's Spooky South Coast.
Don't look now, but Spooky South Coast is creeping up behind you right after this.
Oh, man, what is that smell?
Oh, I just opened the lettuce crisper.
We have a lettuce crisper?
Everything gets old, even your shocks. So make sure you change your worn shocks at 50,000 miles.
What are you doing? Put the top back on! Put the top back on!
I think it's moving.
Actual mileage may vary depending on driver ability, vehicle type, and the type of driving and road conditions. Purchase qualifying Monroe shocks or struts between now and April 30th and get a prepaid card worth up to $120 by mail-in offer. Restrictions apply. Learn more at Monroe.com.
Some exclusions may apply. If you're an athlete of any kind, then you know about joint pain, muscle pain, and even arthritis. Nearly half of all Americans suffer from some kind of pain due to chronic inflammation. Here's legendary golfer and Anatoblock ambassador, Fred Couples.
This is Fred Couples for Anatoblock. It's been great for me and could be for you too. Anatoblock is a breakthrough supplement scientifically proven to quickly and effectively reduce inflammation and get rid of your pain fast. For me, Anatoblock has been phenomenal. I started taking Anatoblock, and within a few days, I simply started feeling better. Anatoblock was an amazing find for me, and I continue to feel better.
Pick up your supply of Anatoblock today by visiting your local GNC store or going to GNC.com. Anatoblock is a GNC top-selling product and 5-star rated. Even better, become a Gold Card member and get an instant 20% off. That's right, 20% off for becoming a Gold Card member. But hurry, this offer expires soon. So get Anatoblock today at a GNC store near you or GNC.com. If you're considering putting hardwood, bamboo, or laminate floors in your home, there's only one thing you need: a free Lumber Liquidators catalog. Lumber Liquidators has unbeatable prices and the best selection of high-quality flooring anywhere. Call 800-893-7750 for your free catalog. It's filled with great tips, ideas, and deals on hardwood, bamboo, and laminate floors. We buy direct from the mills, so you get the best quality at incredibly low prices. The Hardwood Floor Hotline is open 24/7 at 800-893-7750 to request your free catalog and see for yourself how we can help you get that gorgeous new floor you've been dreaming of. Hardwood floors add beauty and value to your home, so call 800-893-7750 today and we'll rush you your free catalog. Get the hardwood floor you've always wanted for prices you never thought possible. But you must call now. Call 800-893-7750. That's 800-893-7750. Again, 800-893-7750.
Are you one of the nearly half of all Americans that suffers from some kind of pain due to chronic inflammation? If you're experiencing joint pain, muscle pain, back pain, or painful arthritis, then this important message is for you. Stop suffering and start living a life free from pain with the help of Anatablock. Anatablock is a breakthrough supplement that is scientifically proven to quickly and effectively reduce excessive inflammation and get rid of pain. The formula is so effective that we guarantee you will feel a significant difference in just a few days. Pick up your supply of Anatablock today by visiting products, and it was for becoming a GNC VIP. Living a life free from pain is finally here. Get an Anatablock today at any GNC store nationwide or gnc.com.
Your station for the South Coast, AM 1420 WBSM.
Welcome back to Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg. That's from my boy Bill Cooksey. A little Guns N' Roses here on the Spooky South Coast program. And we are talking about black-eyed kids with our guest David Weatherly. Check out his website by going to SpookySouthCoast.com and clicking right on the picture of his book, The Black-Eyed Children, which you definitely want to pick up. But like I said, don't read it right before you're about to go to bed. And I was actually talking with a friend of mine on Facebook earlier this week, David, and we had a strategy for reading the book about, making sure that we stop by a certain point in time and then watching a few hours of a sitcom or something, just to try to get it out of our mind a little bit. We do what we have to. All right, if you'd like to call in and ask a question of our guest, David Weatherly, give us a call, 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. We have another call here. Good evening. You're on Spooky South Coast with David Weatherly. How's it going?
Hi. I just had a question. It's like they say most of the time it's children, the teenagers that have black eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But don't they have to age? I mean, don't they turn to adults after a while?
Well, is that something, David, that has been reported? Can we see similarities enough between these beings from one report to another to know that it might be the same individual and it hasn't aged?
No. The reports, the descriptions are fairly generic, but there doesn't seem to be anything that indicates it's the same, the same person, the same kid or being or whatever it is. Plus, geographically, the reports are so widespread that it doesn't make any sense that it's the same person.
So theoretically, they could be aging.
Yeah, I mean they do have to age, so it's possible to encounter adults with those kind of eyes as well.
Oh, that's true. Especially though, if they are human, we're making a leap in logic there that they would have to age. Maybe they don't.
It's possible. There's just so much evidence that points to these beings not being human at all. There's so many little subtle things. For instance, we haven't gotten into it, but here's something interesting, Tim. We were talking about patterns earlier. I consistently ask people, for instance, if they've ever noticed any kind of blemish, a mole, a freckle, a pimple, anything on these children, and they never.
Yep.
Now, these are supposedly kids, right in that that age span where puberty is kicking in and so forth, and you would expect something, some type of blemish, and there never is. No one ever notices anything like that. Likewise, of course, no one ever sees one.
Are you one of the nearly half?
Sorry, my computer again.
No one ever sees one of these kids with a cell phone or an iPod or wearing a watch. Any of the common things that you would expect from this age group. I mean, go out in public and just observe, kids from 10 to 16 for a few minutes, and how many of them are plugged in with headphones?
Mm-hmm.
How many of them have something, a phone in hand that they're texting? That never happens with these kids. It's never witnessed.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the call.
Oh, I have another question.
Sure, absolutely.
Or comment. That person that called in earlier who had an experience with my sister, and I just had a thought. That this person was walking a dog. Now, don't animals usually cower away from demonic spirits or anything that's strange? They usually cower away. So was the dog also the same type as a human being if he was one? Not human being, but entity if he was one?
What do you think, David? Could the animal have been a familiar?
Well, it could have been, because that's one of the things I was saying that was so unusual about that account that the caller, reported to us. I have never heard of one of these black-eyed beings having an animal close to them that they were walking or holding or anything like that. It's extremely unusual. And in fact, it's very unusual to have accounts at all where there's an animal present. There are a handful of them, and when that occurs, the animals do respond exactly like this caller is expecting. They cower away, they run in fear from sensing that evil or negative energy.
Very interesting. Well, again, I said it to your sister, and I'll say it to you. I hope that it doesn't happen again.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad I got some holy water at home, too.
There you go. Keep it in your pocket. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a great night. And if you would like to call in with any thoughts or questions, 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. And David, one of the theories that we mentioned before we took the break was you mentioned alien hybrids. And that is a very popular theory for not just the black-eyed children, but for a lot of strange and unusual reports that we get. And it would make sense to have them go from being children to being adults if they were some sort of alien hybrid, because we would assume, age. And there are a lot of abduction reports that are very similar to people who encounter the black-eyed children.
Yeah, there are a lot of commonalities. And of course, for years and years now, we've been hearing about, abductees who believe they were involved or used for some type of alien breeding program, a hybrid breeding program. And there are a lot of accounts out there of people who claim to have been taken aboard a ship and having seen a child they believe was a result of their participation, unwilling participation in some type of breeding program. Often these kids are described as being very pale-skinned, human in form, but with some startling differences. Sometimes very wispy hair, and often, the gray alien, solid black eyes. So this has sort of led to a lot of people believing these black-eyed kid encounters are an evolution of the so-called hybrid breeding program. And we get into, obviously, a lot of areas of speculation, and all we have are, theories when it comes down to it. I'm not a big proponent of extraterrestrial, life coming down and creating this breeding program. It's not to say there's not something going on that could explain that. There are just so many accounts, I think we can't completely ignore it at this point. But yeah, a lot of people, even some people who have encountered the black-eyed children, believe that they are some type of alien human hybrid. There's been a few accounts I've received from abductees who say that these kids, 10, 12 years old, have shown up at their homes and knocking on the door like a typical black-eyed kid encounter, but they believe that the child is quote, theirs, and it's just coming to make its presence known. And, it's curious. It's one of the small subsets of these encounters that we have wherein the person is not terrified. In fact, those are the only encounters I've had that, the victim wasn't completely terrified of the encounter because they believed it was their child.
Well, I just got a funny tweet sent to me. I had tweeted out at the beginning of this hour, I said, has anybody had an encounter with a black-eyed kid? Wondering what they might be. David Weatherly discusses the next hour. And speaking of John Keel, our friend Lauren Coleman tweeted back, and he hashtagged black-eyed kids. When did kids beat up in the schoolyard all of a sudden get to be psychic phenomena? I'm worried about this world. So, of course, Lauren knows full well what black-eyed kids are. He's just teasing. But and also, happy birthday to Lauren. It was just his birthday the other day. And if anybody wants to wish him a happy birthday, they can do so by making a donation to the International Cryptozoology Museum. But it really, though, it is something that we have to be concerned about because these reports are happening so much that people are on the lookout now for black-eyed children. And when you see kids walking around the neighborhood, you're going to look at them twice and kind of make sure that you can see the whites of their eyes. And I got a question in the chat room from Low Battery Dave. He had mentioned, I guess he was a little bit late to the show, the idea of, is there a medical condition? And we talked about that a little bit earlier on, and you address it in the book. There is no known medical condition that would cause people to not have any whites of their eyes. But you do talk about one very strange and very untested procedure that people can have in which they can tattoo the whites of their eyes.
Yeah. That's actually been outlawed in a number of states now.
I can see why. Well, they can't see, but I can see.
Right. So there are just a handful of people who have went through that procedure, and not to turn their eyes solid black, but to put, there was one fellow who put, it's a process that basically injects the ink into the eyeball itself. And if you're like me, this is painful to even think about.
Yeah,
let alone sit down and have it done. But, these guys, I can't remember his name. There's a guy who has done an extensive amount of body modification, and he's very famous for it. He was the first one actually who had it done, and he had one of his eyes changed to, I think, solid blue, but it's like a bright, sort of glaring blue. It's very noticeable, and it actually involves using a needle to inject the ink into the eyeball itself so that it changes and alters color. There's also a way they can tattoo patterns on the eyeball, like a star and things like that. As I said, I'm only aware of a handful of people who have had the procedure done. A lot of states have outlawed it now because of the danger involved, and certainly there's no record of any children ever having anything like that done.
Yeah, I don't know if I could. I mean, I know when I poke myself in the eye, like it takes days for me to feel right again. I can't imagine intentionally sticking something. I mean, I wear glasses, and I look at people putting in contact lenses, and I'm like, no, that's not for me. So I can only imagine what it must be like to have to actually inject ink into your eye. And certainly these other medical conditions that you write about in the book, none of them would have the effect that we see in these black-eyed kid reports.
No, that's correct. They essentially, there's a handful of conditions. I spoke to medical professionals, and there's a few conditions, aniridia, mydriasis. These things essentially cause what's called a blown pupil. They distort the pupil itself. Sometimes they make it appear enlarged. They just sometimes they'll discolor it, turning it to like a yellowish color. But these are, first of all, they're fairly rare conditions. Second of all, they make the eyes extremely sensitive, and the people who are suffering through this, they're out seeking medical help to not have to deal with this. So there are no known conditions that cause the eye to go completely black. There's a couple of myths out there that there's some type of drug that will cause the eye to turn solid black, but that's I've never found any evidence of that. I've spoken to medical professionals. I've spoken to law enforcement people who specialize in drug task force. It's just I've never found any evidence of such a thing.
All right, well, why don't we take our final break of the show? And if you have any thoughts or questions for our guest, David Weatherly, about the topic of black-eyed children or anything paranormal, give us a call, 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. We'll be right back with more here on Spooky South Coast on WBSM.
Midweek with Mayor Mitchell. Wednesdays at 5 p.m. on AM 1420 and WBSM.com.
Are you one of the nearly half of all Americans that suffers from some kind of pain due to chronic inflammation? If you're experiencing joint pain, muscle pain, back pain, or painful arthritis, then this important message is for you. Stop suffering and start living a life free from pain with the help of Anatoblock. Anatoblock is a breakthrough supplement that is scientifically proven to quickly and effectively reduce excessive inflammation and get rid of pain. The formula is so effective that we guarantee you will feel a significant difference in just a few days. Pick up your supply of Anatoblock today by visiting any GNC store nationwide or online at gnc.com. Anatoblock is one of GNC's top-selling products and was recently voted to be the best new product innovation by GNC. Even better, join GNC's new member price program and get an instant 20% off today. That's right, 20% off for becoming a GNC VIP. Living a life free from pain is finally here. Get an Anatoblock today at any GNC store nationwide or gnc.com.
If you're considering putting hardwood, bamboo, or laminate floors in your home, there's only one thing you need: a free Lumber Liquidators catalog. Lumber Liquidators has unbeatable prices and the best selection of high-quality flooring anywhere. Call 800-893-7750 for your free catalog. It's filled with great tips, ideas, and deals on hardwood, bamboo, and laminate floors. We buy direct from the mills, so you get the best quality at incredibly low prices. The Hardwood Floor Hotline is open 24/7 at 800-893-7750 to request your free catalog and see for yourself how we can help you get that gorgeous new floor you've been dreaming of. Hardwood floors add beauty and value to your home, so call 800-893-7750 today and we'll rush you your free catalog. Get the hardwood floor you've always wanted for prices you never thought possible. But you must call now. Call 800-893-7750. That's 800-893-7750. Again, 800-893-7750.
When we seek advice, we look for an expert. Luckily, we have local experts right here in our community. Learn how you can save up to 50% off on your energy costs with local energy experts at Acushnet Alternative Heating. Looking for the perfect ingredients to make your summer sangria or marinade for your summer barbecue? Douglas Wine and Spirits has expert advice and all the ingredients. And if you're looking for advice on ways to look more youthful, then the team at Avalon Medical Spa can share tips on how to get you glowing. Find advice and video tips on WBSM.com now.
Are you one of the nearly half of all Americans that suffers from some kind of pain due to chronic inflammation? If you're experiencing joint pain, muscle pain, back pain, or painful arthritis, then this important message is for you. Stop suffering and start living a life free from pain with the help of Anatoblock. Anatoblock is a breakthrough supplement that is scientifically proven to quickly and effectively reduce excessive inflammation and get rid of pain. The formula is so effective that we guarantee you will feel a significant difference in just a few days. Pick up your supply of Anatoblock today by visiting any GNC store nationwide or online at gnc.com. Anatoblock is one of GNC's top-selling products and was recently voted to be the best new product innovation by GNC. Even better, join GNC's new member price program and get an instant 20% off today. That's right, 20% off for becoming a GNC VIP. Living a life free from pain is finally here. Get an Anatoblock today at any GNC store nationwide or gnc.com.
Your station for the South Coast. AM 1420 WBSM.
It blew books off shelves from 20 feet away and scared the socks off some poor librarian.
Turn on all your lights, lock the doors, and pull down the shades. Spooky South Coast is back.
This looks extraordinarily bad.
Welcome back. Tim Weisberg here with you early here on a Saturday night, and we are just about up against the news break. We'll come back after the news for 20 minutes more of the program here on Spooky South Coast, leading into the Red Sox pregame at 9:20. and then they'll be taking over our normal time slot. We'll be preempted by the Red Sox, but that's all right because we got a chance to talk to you here on an early Saturday evening, which I'm very glad for because that gave us the chance to take that call and find out about a black-eyed kid encounter right here in the New Bedford area. But David, we had mentioned that you had mentioned you were working on a new book, and I saw that online. Is it called The Intruders?
Intruders. It will be out literally within just the next couple of weeks or so. And it covers a lot of different encounters with various beings. There's a whole chapter on puckwudgies in there. There's a chapter on black-eyed being encounters that covers some of the accounts of black-eyed adults, as well as a couple more accounts of black-eyed kids. There's a chapter on the Slender Man, which is something I've constantly been asked about for the last several years. There's a chapter on the Jinn, which is something else a lot of people are interested in, and just a whole plethora of other different encounters, entity encounters, basically.
Oh, it definitely sounds like it's going to be another creepy one that I'm not going to want to read with the lights off. Well, not that I can read with the lights off anyway, but you know what I mean. And I can only imagine how creeped out you must get writing about these and hearing these stories and going through the process of questioning people about their encounters and realizing, oh, no, wait, this legitimately happened.
Yeah, I don't know how creeped out I get. We've talked about it. I've been in this field a long time, and occasionally there'll be one that comes along that sort of gives you the chill, when somebody's relating it to you, and it just, it makes you feel very uneasy. There are a couple other black-eyed kid encounters that are particularly unnerving when you put yourself in the place of the person who experienced them.
Well, we hope that you can. I'm sorry, I was going to say, we hope that you can come back and discuss this, but when this book gets sent to me, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be another one with the cover down. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you've seen the cover, which is just an incredible piece of artwork. A friend of mine, Sam Sharon from the UK, did that, and he did an amazing job. I gave him my concept, and he sort of took it and ran. And if anyone hasn't seen it, you can go to either my blog or my Facebook page and see it. It's been posted there, and it's getting a lot of positive comments, which is, I hope people are looking forward to reading it too.
And the blog is at twocrowsparanormal.blogspot.com, and that's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they want to share their own black-eyed kid encounter or any kind of strange report that they want to share with you?
Absolutely. Just contact me right there. You can post a comment, or you can contact me on my Facebook page, which is linked on there. I also have a Twitter feed, which is twocrowspara at twitter.com. And, yeah, people are free to contact me and let me know about their personal encounters with not just black-eyed children, but, I'm interested in a lot of different types of phenomena. So, yeah, feel free to contact me. And I've got a lot of events coming up. I'll be at the Paradigm Symposium this year in Minneapolis. I'll be at Phantom Fest in San Antonio, Texas in October. I'll be speaking in LA a couple of times in the fall, but all of that information gets posted on my blog and my Facebook page.
Excellent. Well,
I love to meet people.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad we could finally have you on to discuss the black-eyed children.
Hey, anytime, Tim. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Have a great night.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye. That is David Weatherly, and you can check his website out, twocrowsparanormal.blogspot.com. Be right back with more here on Spooky South Coast.
South Coast turns to for local news, talk, weather, and sports. WBSM New Bedford, AM 1420, WBSM.
ABC News. I'm Michael Barr. Jurors in the George Zimmerman second-degree murder trial have returned from their dinner break and are back deliberating. The jury, into its second day of deliberations, asked the judge a question. ABC's Aaron Petersky is covering the trial in Sanford, Florida.
The 6 women asked the judge to clarify her instructions about the lesser of 2 offenses Zimmerman faces. The judge told them she couldn't discuss it generally, but might answer a specific question about manslaughter. It requires the jury to believe Zimmerman killed without lawful justification, a much lower standard than what's required for second-degree murder.
The remains of 33 people have now been recovered in the small Quebec town of Lac-Mégantic, devastated by a fiery train derailment a week ago. 17 others remain missing and are presumed dead. Rescue crews in northern Indiana say an air pocket saved the life of a 6-year-old boy who was trapped for more than 3 hours under 11 feet of sand. The boy was playing on a dune in Indiana that was cordoned off for restoration when he fell into it. Here's ABC's Rob Nelson.
Late word today from the hospital that little boy remains in critical condition but is responding well to breathing treatments for sand that he actually ingested there into his lungs.
Flash flood warnings are up tonight in the southeast. Chris Duke is with the National Weather Service in Miami.
Even when these storms get downgraded and they're not really considered a storm or depression, they can still cause, problems like this with widespread rainfall.
There could be a royal bundle of joy any day now. So far, there has been no movement at London's Buckingham Palace as the Duchess of Cambridge and Prince William are expecting their first child. ABC's Bianca Goladriga in London reports the Royal Baby Watch translates into tourism dollars.
Proceeds from tourism and product sales related to the birth are expected to pump nearly $400 million into the British economy. $90 million alone is expected to be spent on some 3 million bottles of champagne purchased to toast the new baby's birth.
You're listening to ABC News.
At Advance Auto Parts, getting the right oil and saving some cold, hard cash is your advance advantage. Right now, a 5+ quarts jug of Castrol CTX conventional motor oil and the filter are just $19.99. Or, if the car's over 75,000 miles, upgrade to Castrol GTX high mileage oil for just $3 more to help extend engine life. The right oil to make your car hum, the right price to make you whistle a happy song. Only at Advance Auto Parts. See store for details.
Hi, Tom Bodette, sharpening my memory with word association. I read a word, then say the first thing that pops into my noggin. Like dark, that's easy. Light, dog, fuzzy. Handsome, thanks. And Motel 6, value. That's because we always save you money on a clean, comfortable room. And lowest price of any national chain is more than one word. I'm a stickler. Book online at motel6.com. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Texan Democrats are vowing to fight in the courts and the ballot box after Republicans passed a controversial abortion bill. The bill, one of the most restrictive in the country, bans abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy. The family of former South African leader Nelson Mandela say that they are less anxious about his health. Mandela has been hospitalized for weeks. Indaba Mandela says his grandfather remains in critical but stable condition.
What's encouraging is that he does respond when we speak to him. And I mean, he opens his eyes, if you hold his hand, he squeezes your hand.
Police in San Francisco are still quiet about the motive behind the shooting deaths of 2 women at a shopping center in a trendy part of the city. A man was seriously wounded in Friday's shooting at a jewelry shop. Former disgraced New York Governor Eliot Spitzer has written what he believes to be some words of wisdom.
Eliot Spitzer was forced to resign in a prostitution scandal in 2008.
I have acted in a way that violates my obligations to my family and that violates my or any sense of right and wrong.
But now he's back running for New York City Controller, and he's out with a new ebook, Protecting Capitalism Case by Case. The main subject is how he went after law-breaking Wall Street titans, but there's a section on his 10 rules for living a virtuous life. Rule number 1 is loyalty. He glosses over the sex scandal, and his wife is never mentioned. He also warns against self-importance that can lead to dangerous arrogance. Deirdre Bryant, ABC News.
This is ABC News.
Sometimes in life, you just get lucky. Like when you slide into a rock star parking spot or get a great table at that hot new restaurant. But luck won't protect you from identity theft. And that's why Identity Guard offers top-rated identity theft protection for less than $1 a day. Act now and get free protection for your kids, the latest targets for identity thieves. Get it now for less than $1 a day at identityguard.com/dollar. That's identityguard.com/dollar.
Michael Barr, ABC News.
I'm in almost every school bus and classroom. I go to school with your children. We say the Pledge of Allegiance together. You've seen me around the neighborhood, and you've told me I'm a pretty good kid. Well, I'm 1 out of every 4 children in America, and I'm struggling with hunger. This problem is closer than you think. My teacher tells me we could grow up and be whatever we want. I want to grow up and be someone who doesn't go to bed hungry. There's enough food in this country to feed everyone. Please visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help. Every dollar you donate helps provide 7 meals for kids like me, quietly struggling with hunger. Together, we're Feeding America. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Over here.
What?
Right here, on the side of the house.
Who said that?
Look down. I'm right at your feet.
Wait, basketball?
Yes, the basketball. Right down here, where the kids left me a long time ago. Man, you know how lonely it is being a ball and not being able to bounce or roll?
Excuse me?
Remember when you got me for the kids? You said, now kids, you have no excuse not to go outside and play.
Uh-huh.
Wow. I'll miss flying through the air and hearing the shouts of joy when I swish through the basket. What do you say? Could you give me a little air and remind the kids of how fun I still am?
Okay. Oh, wow. You are flat.
Easy, I'm ticklish. Let's get bouncing.
As Native American parents and caregivers, our encouragement to healthy lifestyles for our kids is helping them get outside and play. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov/Indian Country. Brought to you by USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
Getting out of the military, I was missing this camaraderie.
It's frustrating when you try and talk to people that don't understand.
I still had the anger, I still had the addictions. We didn't talk about that.
Came to a point where it's like, okay, I really need to talk to somebody about this.
Family more or less encouraged me, go to the VA.
It's okay to go get help. It's okay to talk to people, because it takes true strength to ask for help.
Hear veterans' real stories of strength and recovery at maketheconnection.net.
Your station for the South Coast, AM 1420 WBSM.
Welcome to Spooky Southcoast.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
AM 1420 WBSM presents Spooky South Coast with your hosts Tim Weisberg and Matt Costa.
Welcome back to Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here. The silent assassin Matt Costa and science advisor Matt Moniz are not in the house tonight. Well, actually, I think Moniz is in the house, but it's just his house, not the Spooky South Coast house. He is off tonight, and Matt Costa is out slaving away, making the bucks. So he may stop in before the end of the program, depending on when his shift gets over. But, it was either come in here and you have to do it for free because Spooky South Coast can't afford the kind of money that Matt Costa commands, or go out there and work his job. So I think he made the wise choice. And we had a great discussion in the first 2 hours with David Weatherly talking about Black-Eyed Kids. If you missed any part of the show, we will podcast it. You can get our podcasts from iTunes or wherever podcasts are found, free of charge. 7.5 years worth of archives, all the way back to the first show, as bad as it was. And there's lots of great ones along the way as well that you can check out. Just, again, free. I can't stress that enough, that it's just great free entertainment. If you want to learn more about the paranormal, if this is the first time you've ever heard the program and you want to find out more about what we talk about each and every week, there's no better resource than just downloading some of those podcasts and listening to the great guests that we've had over the years. Because, the spooky crew here, we don't really know. We know what we're doing, but we're not the authorities on the subject. We're not the people who have spent our entire lives to research. Well, Matt Moniz, my co-host, has. But, we try to use this show as a forum for people to get the information out to the audience. So it's best if, instead of hearing me yammer on about it, you go back and listen to the archives, and you will learn about things that you didn't even know existed. And you can also watch us on YouTube as well, on Spooky TV. We do put those up there as well. We haven't been doing that for as long, so if you are interested in checking out those archives, there's not as many up there. We've only been doing Spooky TV for a few years now, but there's still plenty of videos up there to check out. And we're working on creating some new video content for our website that will be up there, and we also have our new blog feature up on SpookySouthCoast.com as well. Bob Wright has the first one up there for you to check out, and there's some articles that were written by myself and Chris Balzano, the show's content director. So there's plenty to read if you want to peruse the site, maybe while you're eating dinner, or I like to read the site when I first get home and see what kind of new information we have up there. And it's really we're trying to make it a one-stop shop for all things paranormal. So check out SpookySouthcoast.com, and our thanks to our new web mistress, Summer Ronso, for all of her help in helping us figure out what's going on. And, of course, Christina Tufte will be creating some great graphics for us in the coming weeks as well. And if you'd like to be a contributor to SpookySouthcoast.com, if you think you have something to say about the paranormal, or perhaps you want to host your own show on Spooky TV, get in touch with us, SpookyCrew@SpookySouthcoast.com, and we can figure out a way to make it happen for you. I know a lot of people out there, too, have asked how they can investigate. People want to get out there and get their feet wet and actually go out there and look for signs of the paranormal. And you can do that through our Legend Trips events. What it is it's a very unique type of event. There's a lot of these paranormal investigation events out there now. But we try to make it a little bit different than some of these other ones, because you go to these other events and they bring in some of the TV stars from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and people who have been on all these different documentary programs. And when we do events, we like the location to be the star. So Legend Trips are a joint venture between Spooky South Coast and GhostVillage.com and Ghost Village founder Jeff Belanger. And we try to find unique historic haunts throughout the New England area where we can bring a group of people and have them really appreciate not only the haunts that are taking place at that location, but also the history of it as well. And a portion of all of our ticket proceeds go right back into helping those locations stay open. And we've been able to raise significant amounts of money over the years. We've raised over $10,000 to help benefit the places that we investigate. And that number is only going to go up significantly by the end of the fall, because we are planning a full slate of Legend Trips events through August, September, October, and into November. So you'll have your opportunity to help support some different historic haunts around here, and maybe, just maybe, when all is said and done, we might hit that magical $15,000 mark by the end of 2013. So that's what we're shooting for. We'd like to be able to reach the $15,000 donation mark by December 31st. So let's hope that we can do so. And in order to do that, we need you to come along with us. And you can get your tickets for our event that's on sale right now at the USS Salem coming up on August 31st. It's in Quincy Harbor. It is a museum, and it is also a giant heavy cruiser battleship, and it's sitting right there in Quincy Harbor, and it is haunted. So we'll be there investigating on August 31st, and if you've never been to one of our events, we offer dinner, we offer lectures, and I'm not talking like lecturing at you like, here's what's going on, and you just sit there and listen, and there's going to be a pop quiz at the end of it. No, we're talking about interactive, entertaining discussions about topics within the paranormal. And we'll talk about the history of the ship as well. So you're getting a valuable lesson as well. You're getting the same tour that you would get if you went there and took the tour during the day, but it's just part of this overall event. We're actually trying to work things out too, so that people who want to can sleep on the ship. We always try to get a hotel deal nearby because a lot of people come from out of state and from far away for our Legend Trips events. So we try to get a deal at a local hotel so that they don't have to travel all the way home, because we're getting out of there at 2 o'clock in the morning and people just want to crash. So we try to get the best deal possible at the closest location possible to make it easy on our guests. And how much closer can you get than actually sleeping on the USS Salem? So we're working on trying to finalize that. I'll have more on that hopefully next week. And also, I may be able to start announcing some of these future events that we have planned. But 2 of them are going to be locations that we've been to in the past. 2 of our biggest and most successful events in terms of both the number of people who have come and the amount of money we've raised, but also in terms of the activity that we've had as well. So we're going to be returning to 2 familiar haunts, pun intended, and then a new place that we've never investigated before, but will soon be in even more demand than it is right now. So that's about all I can reveal for that. But some of our Legend Trippers, our regulars, they know what I'm talking about. And if you want to get on the pre-sale list to get first access at these tickets before anybody else does, go to legendtrips.com and sign up for the email list. It's that easy. And then what happens is when we have an event that we're going to put on sale, we have an exclusive pre-sale, usually 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes even 7 days before we open it up to the public. You'll have an opportunity to buy those tickets in advance. And I can tell you that we do events at Lizzie Borden's in Fall River that sell out in the pre-sale. They don't even make it to the public sale because people who are on the mailing list snatch up all those tickets. They're very intimate events. And this new location that we'll be investigating this fall, that is another similar intimate setting. And if I tell you anything more, you might be able to figure it out. So I don't want to give too much away. But that's going to be another one of those places where you're going to want to get in on this pretty quick, because it's going to be gone. We might set records for how fast the tickets sell out with this event. So join the Legend Trips mailing list by going to legendtrips.com. And while you're there, you can see some of our past events where we've held other events in the past. And you can find out more about the current event that's on sale, the USS Salem, on August 31st. We've only got a few minutes left here on the show, but if anybody does want to call in with any thoughts or questions about the paranormal, 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. During the course of the program tonight, we got an email from a gentleman who has just started a new venture, a new website that is called UFO Report Massachusetts. And if you go to the website uforeportmass.weebly.com, that's uforeportmass.weebly.com. This gentleman has put together a site that has some UFO reports by region of the state, and then it breaks down into towns from there. So everything from Bridgewater, Kingston, Middleborough, Lakeville, New Bedford, North Attleboro, Chicopee, Ludlow, Springfield, Dennisport, Provincetown, West Tisbury, and all around the Boston metro and northeast area. You can check out uforeportmass.weebly.com to read some of these reports, and also you can enter in your own sightings on that website to help build up this database. You can also email uforeportmass@juno.com, uforeportmass@juno.com, so that if you want to share your own experience and get it up there and have it cataloged, this will be the way to do it. Because, of course, MUFON catalogs all of these reports, but you can't always get access to those as easily as you can with this website. All these stories are right there for you to check out and see. And hopefully, as these reports break, as we had a few weeks ago take place in the Wareham area where there was a number of UFO sightings, they'll get up on the website quickly enough that people can verify, all right, I wasn't the only one that saw that. And the key here with this website, of course, is the gentleman that's running it is going to have to verify what's going on. He's going to have to contact the FAA and local authorities and make sure that there wasn't any kind of flight that was going on that would be misconstrued as a UFO. So it's going to be a lot of work. So I wish him the best of luck with that. uforeportmass.weebly.com. And that is going to be about it for the program tonight. The Red Sox are coming up at 9:20. The first pitch will be after 10 o'clock, but the pregame show is starting in just a few minutes. We'll be back next week where we're going to be joined by Lara Calhoun, who is the head of Resurrection Talent LLC. We're going to find out why people in the paranormal field need to have an agent. Why do they need to have somebody whose job it is to book them public speaking appearances and convention appearances and everything else, when isn't your job supposed to be a paranormal investigator? Isn't that what you're in this for, to find answers to the unknown? Or are you in it to become famous and make money? We'll talk about all that and more with I wish there was money to be made. No, let me tell you. We'll talk about all that and more next week with our guest Lara Calhoun. And then the week after that, we'll be talking with Mac Maloney. He'll be returning to the show to talk with us more about UFOs and about other Area 51 locations around the world. Stay tuned for the Red Sox. We will see you next week. Until then, we want you all to stay spooktacular.
The following is a special presentation of WBSM Sports, AM 1420, WBSM New Bedford.